Hello, everyone. This is Gary from Safe Scranton. I'm going to do a podcast today about something that I'm commonly asked for by people who live outside the Scranton area. What they want to know is, I make these claims, and a lot of them may seem to be quite an exaggeration. That's only if you're not from Scranton. Again, if you're from Scranton, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But for those viewers or listeners who are not from the area, let me give you a little rundown on exactly the kind of hijinks and ridiculous nonsense that pervades in the city of Scranton in Pennsylvania. All right, the first thing that I want to get clear and across is that Scranton is corrupt. Now, that's not like, a lot of people will say, corruption happens. You got politicians who will take, kickbacks, or you got politicians who will dole out favors to their friends and something like that, or some other type of, nepotism, or something like that. And yes, that's probably normative. It's probably almost everywhere. But I'm not talking about that kind of sustainable corruption. You see, there's corruption that doesn't necessarily ruin society. Like in New York City, there's probably corruption. I'm sure there is, but the city is still a vibrant. New York City is still a vibrant city. California, San Francisco, I think places like that. Atlanta, I name many cities that are doing well. Probably there's corruption there, but they still manage to provide services to the citizens, still have business opportunities, have jobs, have growth, and economic sustainability. Scranton, on the other hand, has none of these things. The corruption here is so debilitating that the city is in tatters. Like, it looks like someone dropped a bomb, and to repair it, they just dropped another bomb. And you go to our website, look at the images, and we take pictures around the city. We're going to do more of that, just to show you exactly what we mean. Now, how did it become this way? Like, how did Scranton become corrupt, and how do we know it's corrupt? For those of you who are not from the area. Okay, here it goes. First and foremost, the city is controlled by a political machine. Kind of like back in the days with Tammany Hall. So this political machine that's an intersection of the unions, some criminal elements, and the local government have gotten together and decided that they're going to use their political power and control the unions to get political control. And they're going to run the city like a medieval kingdom where only their family members and friends and people who they deem worthy can have a viable living, while everyone else in the city will live in poverty and just have to make a meager living to get by. So, what has happened? What's the end result? The end result is a city where, again, 2/3 of the people live in poverty. 1 out of 3 child is hungry. Heroin, drug epidemics, crime. The jobs here, if you get a job here at like $12 an hour, that's considered a good job. That's how bad it is. There are absolutely no jobs here. The Scranton Chamber of Commerce does nothing, and in fact, it's very obstructive in terms of allowing businesses to come into the area. The city council, they're either lying, oblivious, or delusional. And I'm pretty sure it's not oblivious, because the corruption here is staggering. In fact, even one of the city councilmen told me themselves personally that the city is controlled by a political society, and this is the way Scranton is. This is the way they do things. And I have not met a local Scrantonian who does not know that this is the way things are. So, what has been some of the indications and some of the end results of the corruption? And also, what evidence do I have besides saying that it exists, and besides saying that the city is ruined? Like, the city can be ruined due to incompetence. And that's the argument that I think is thrown around, that Scranton is just led by incompetent leaders who don't know what they're doing, who are not talented, and have little ability, which is true. But it goes more than that. It's nefarious. They don't only not have ability, they are purposely ruining things because they're not trying to make the city competitive or viable. You know, they're not trying to make the city somewhere where people would want to live. Because if enough people moved in who were educated and who did ask questions, the house of cards would come toppling down very quickly. So let's give you a list of the kind of things that go on in Scranton. All right, so Scranton has been in distress status since 1992. Distress status is when local government has a pension that's basically below 50% funded. So it's supposed to be 100% funded. You're all right. These are people's money that's in the fund, but it's not even funded at 50%. Scranton's pensions right now stand to be underfunded by 80%. So just give you a number, let's say there's supposed to be $100 million in there, and there's only $20 million. Where do you get the other $80 million to make up the shortfall? Your guess is as good as mine. As I stated already, there are hardly any jobs in the area. There are 50,000 students who go to the local universities. Their goal, as soon as they graduate, is to leave Scranton as soon as possible. Nobody stays here on purpose. The current debt rating for Scranton government is below junk. So when they do get their loans, I'm not sure who they're getting it from, which brave soul is willing to give an institution money that has lower than junk status bond rating. But I'm also going to assume that's going to be sky high interest rates, because the lower your credit rating, the higher your interest rates are. The city's balance sheet, if you look at the budget, has about $232 million in debt. Okay? When it only has revenues from its tax collection of about $68 million. Now, if you go to the budget and look at how it's organized, they speak about extraordinary events of like getting loans or getting more taxes from people who haven't paid their tax, which all sounds great in theory, but where's the evidence? Like, you shouldn't base your entire financial position on projections. And obviously, if these individuals were good at making financial projections, they wouldn't be in the financial distress and dire situation that they currently are. Thus, I think that it's beyond foolish to believe in the financial projections that's coming from the city of Scranton or the Scranton government. Despite having no money, the city spends over 80% of the budget on government employee compensation. The government employees get great health benefits, nice salaries, health care, all of that. It's amazing. And of course, what the city gets, no jobs, falling housing values, crumbling infrastructure, and a place where dreams come to die. The home charter states clearly that the budget must balance, but the budget obviously has not balanced for beyond almost 30 years. But they still persist in claiming that they're doing better, they're going to go forward, which is just a song and dance routine that they use in order to keep the status quo going without interruption, because they want to steal as much as possible without anyone interfering. The firefighters' pension is only funded 17%. Non-uniformed government employees' pension is funded at 23%, and the police is at 29%. Again, all told, to my 80% underfunded. Their plan is to sell the sewer authority, lease the public garage in order to try to make money. Now, I don't know why a government is in the business of selling public assets. I never knew there was a market for this, that the government should be in business to take the public's property, and sell it in the market to do what exactly? Give it back to the public? No, but to give it to themselves. This is the most high-handed example of the fact that this place is corrupt. Why are you selling public assets again? Are you going to use it to invite businesses or create a rail line to bring commuters or tourists or people who want to come in the city and work in the city and live in the city and work somewhere else. No, we're going to take the money and put it in our pockets. More compensation for us. And the city will do better because we're doing better. And that's the most self-serving, ridiculous comment that you can ever come up with. You know, give me money, and when I have money, we're all better off. And this is on top of the money they already have. You know, and it just goes to show you the climate of corruption and malfeasance and nepotism that exists in Scranton. Over a dozen non-uniform employees have been found to receive double pension payments. Pension fees for police officers were increased in the last year. Of the police officers that are in retirement, 50% of them receive disability, while for the fire department, for those retired from the fire department, 58% of them receive disability. Now, the interesting thing about this is Scranton is not a big city. It's talking about 76,000 people. Why are these police officers, 50% of them on disability? It's the highest rate in the entire state of Pennsylvania. The nifty thing about receiving disability is that it allows you to retire early. So you don't have to be bothered by waiting until you're 45 or whatever to retire. You can retire at 30 years old. So these guys can retire at 30 years old, receive their pension payments, and then live off on the public dole. Because obviously, who are paying the pension is the public. It's through tax dollars, through our income. So you have these guys who basically are living on the system, carefree, and the public are paying for it. And what's even worse, it's not even young people paying for it. It's older people. 38% of the population of Scranton is people who live on fixed incomes. The average fixed income recipient makes about $15,000 a year. Can you imagine living on $15,000 a year and then having your property taxes raised on you? Now we're getting to property taxes, but hold on. Let me go on. I have a quote about how the fact that being on disability also doesn't disbar you from doing other jobs. So you have people in Scranton who are on disability getting other jobs like in the prisons or being security guards or something else. Local services tax has recently increased by 200%. Within the past 5 years, property taxes has increased by 100%. Wage fees have increased. I get constant complaints from people about the mercantile tax. They basically force you to pay a tax to do business in Scranton. Obviously, they should thank you that you want to do business in Scranton, but instead, they're imposing more taxes on you. There's licensing fees for plumbers. If a plumber wants to do something in Scranton, he can be a plumber for 30 years and be a professional and probably teach the trade of plumbing. But no, in Scranton, you're going to have to get an extra license to do plumbing work in Scranton. So obsessed. They're so obsessed with nickel and diming every participant who comes to Scranton. And this is the kind of nonsense that pervades in this area. The Scranton Mall was built at for $90 million when it was built. And then it was recently sold for $4.25 million. Now, if that doesn't make sense to you, it shouldn't, because it doesn't make sense. It does not make any sense why a property that was worth $90 million when it was built somehow depreciated to the value of $5 million. And yet, they're somehow toting this as a success. Like, yes, someone bought it, they're going to change it, they're going to do right by it. I find this entire thing questionable. This is a sad predicament when and what makes it worse is that the money to build this mall in the first place, where did it come from? I'm guessing it came from the taxpayers. More ways for the taxpayers to be robbed. If you take a look at Save Scranton's images, you'll see pictures of like the housing situation here. If you're asking Scrantonian about the housing situation in Scranton, you know our houses are blighted, they're falling apart. It just makes no sense to refurbish them or make them better. The property taxes are so high and the property values are so low that it actually would hurt you to even attempt to fix your houses. Also, businesses are closing down. Business owners here complain all the time about being in Scranton. In addition to having to deal with the fact that you have low traffic because even the students don't want to go around Scranton and interact with Scranton, so you have a base of customers. You have to deal with the high fees, the wage fees and garbage fees and taxes just to operate in Scranton. Residents are afraid of the government. They believe that if you speak or rock the boat, there will be punitive consequences. The government is not, they will very much likely be willing to take your property, take your business, get you fired, smear your name, do anything was possible to keep themselves in power. And thus, the Scranton people are all just completely afraid. It's like unbelievable. You would have sworn that you're living in an African, country like Congo where there's a warlord who's in charge with a military, and if you do something, they'll kill you. This is what it's like to be in Scranton. Scranton basically will use the law. They'll use the police. They'll use the judges. They'll use anything in their control to get what they want because they don't care. Yeah, they're morally bankrupt. They're completely corrupt, and this is the sort of shenanigans that go on in Scranton. Now, I could go on and on and on about this, but I'm pretty sure you're getting the gist, right? Oh yeah, I one tidbit too, and I always like to point this out, that I also found out that Hillary Clinton is from Scranton. And what always, blows my mind is the fact that until recently, she used to fundraise in Scranton. In fact, her husband was here in December. And what I find is very fascinating is because I just told you that Scrantonians are pretty poor. Therefore, if she's fundraising in Scranton, where is she getting her funds from? And that could only be one source of legitimate funds, quote unquote legitimate, that is, in Scranton. And it's basically the same corrupt people who are basically milking the city dry. So I would like to throw that out because I find it very fascinating that, Clinton's running for presidency. And if this is the picture of the type of dealings that would occur with her in office, God help us all. Because this city, in all honesty, is better off. No, I should not say that. The city is not the problem. The Scranton government is better off, again, not existing. Like, it would be great, if they could just pack up and just leave and let Scrantonians figure things out for themselves. Because Scrantonians would be better off. They would have more money in their pockets. They can start making policies that are pro-growth, pro-economic activity. They can do a far better job than what has been accomplished thus far, which is basically nothing. And again, if this was anything comparable to a service that you have to pay for, like a cell phone or cable or any other service in the private sector, nobody would pay for it. Nobody would pay to live in the unhappiest city in America. Nobody would pay to live in a place that's filled with poverty and blighted homes and drugs and crime. No one would pay to live in a place where the government is in business for itself, to aggrandize itself, to fill its coffers and make sure its employees have great benefits, who probably don't even live in the city, who probably just collect a paycheck. I hear that, you have government workers who collect their disability checks in golf shoes and go visit their rental properties. And this complete corruption and heartlessness pervades to such a degree that it's a wonder that more arrests haven't been made. And of course, that is still questionable. I mean, it's only a matter of time. Like I always tell people this when people talk about the future of Scranton. Again, it's only a matter of time that enough people get the word about what's going on in Scranton. Because again, we at Save Scranton, we're dedicated to making sure that everyone knows. So it's only a matter of time. And we're also going to be working on doing a documentary to give people a video presentation of exactly what it's like to live in Scranton, to be in Scranton, and the kind of corruption that goes on, And it'll be great that everyone can see it. We'll throw press releases and have media events where people can sit around and watch this. And we're hoping that eventually it gets part of the national conversation where this place gets investigated by outside journalists, so they can see firsthand the type of corruption that exists in America. And it's heinous. This is not where our country was founded for. This is not why Americans pay taxes. This is not why people come to this country. And it's not why we even founded this republic. This is supposed to be a land of the free. It's very difficult for Americans to sit here and talk about the beauty and blessings of liberty, about constitutional law and rule of law, while we have tyrannical governments like the government of Scranton that exists with near impunity. I can only imagine what would happen, if our forefathers who are here today. Of course, I believe that they would just go to the Scranton government and tar and feather them and take over. And I believe that's far within their right and legitimacy. Governments like the government of Scranton do not deserve our tax dollars. They don't deserve any legitimacy. The only thing that allows governments like Scranton to continue is the idea that the individual is powerless. And the individual is not. The individual is the most powerful thing in the world. Their collective force, when they come together, their unity cannot be stopped by anything else. There are 76,000 people who live in Scranton. And I'm pretty sure if you're wherever you are, it's the same case for you. Whatever situation you're dealing with in terms of politics or whatever, you and the people who are upset about it are far more numerous than the people who are doing the things you don't like. Organize, get together, do what we're doing. Create a blog, create an organization, have meetings, get together and do something about it. You'll be surprised at how quick things can go in your way once you organize and start making meaningful efforts towards execution and towards accomplishing your goals. And since we know that's the case, the days of the political machine that's in charge of Scranton are numbered. We will continue to do what we're doing, and we'll only get stronger, better, and more forceful in our activities. So I hope that everyone probably completely understands the situation in Scranton. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Our email is listed at the end of the podcast. Also, you go to the website. We have a forum there you can check out. And we really thank you for listening. Please be advised that there'll be a lot more podcasts. We're going to be working on some more video presentation. And check out our articles. Thank you for listening. And be completely assured that, one more thing. I want to say thank you to Scranton Sucks for showcasing our site. I do not mind anyone saying anything about Save Scranton as long as they're pushing out the good word. That's fine by me. So shout out to them. Thank you. And also, we're going to be on Twigs Radio this week and next. We're actually going to be making a constant weekly update on our situation in Scranton. If you want to, I believe you can check out the presentation or the radio show at twigsradio.com or twigsradiocafe.com. Not sure exactly if I have the URL correct, but I will put a link at the end of this podcast that will be featured on the YouTube page. So thank you. Thanks again, and you have a great day. Goodbye.